the amount of changes in this particular phase. So when we come out of the design development, we want to make sure we have everything in that in that drawing. Mr. Johnson has alluded to that also. Anything else? That's it? Now we're going to move on to the next phase, which is the bidding, procurement, and tendering phase, and Mr. Russell will do that presentation. Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Okay, bidding, procurement, tendering. So these headings are used interchangeably across the industry, but for the benefit of what we do at the Ministry of Works, we do tendering. The bidding documents required to bid, negotiate construction contract. And the construction contracts include those items listed above: bidding requirements, invitation to bid, instruction to bidders, bid forms, agreement, performances, all of that stuff up there. And the contract documents, legal agreements between the government of the Bahamas and the general contractor. And before we get to the pre-qualifications, we have the package everything that was just previously mentioned for the contractors. And the contractors will pick up the documents from the Ministry of Works, depending on what the project is. And what they have to present to us is their VAT registration, to speak to them being VAT compliant, their tax compliance certificate, so payments could be authorized and generated. Of course, you have an up-to-date business license and contractor's letters of agreement. The contractor also have to produce all risk insurance, which is in a minimum of $1 million for any occurrences, and the tender documents are prepared. There are three types of tender documents that could be prepared at any time, but depending on what approach that we will go by with them. It's negotiation, which could be done between the project officer, the QS, and the contractor. Competitive bidding will be done publicly or advertised. Selective bidding is basically similar to competitive, but it's a specialty area for contractor as a specialty type of construction. Open tender is similar to competitive bidding, where all is invited to tender publicly. Move on. Tender opening. Once contractors are invited to tender opening is done at tender's board, depending on the contract value. If it's under 50,000, be done here at Ministry of Works, or if it's over 50,000, be done at tender board. Over 250 is at cabinet level. Tender documents again include tender analysis report, tender report approval by the minister or tender's board. That pretty much sums up my part of this presentation.
Our next presenter for the construction administration is Senior Architect Ian Pavard.
Good afternoon. Okay, I'm here to talk about the construction administration portion of the contract. During the construction administration portion, I guess you could say, you could coined this phrase. It's from the cradle to the grave. Basically what that means is that from the contract signing all the way to occupation, final account building. Okay? All right, so the construction administration, what it does is it ensures proper construction techniques, materials, equipment, and persons employed are in compliance with the contract documents. Okay, we have a number of phases during the construction administration phase. First, we start off with the pre-construction. And during this phase, as you heard back with contract documents, at the end of that phase, we have to make sure, submit a set of drawings to the building control department in order to get approval. So that shows the connection of all the phases. And if you look at that phase where you have contract document phase, you'll see that at this phase, which is contract administration, you'll find that now the first thing we're looking for, because those documents would have been submitted, we're now looking for an approved set of construction drawings, okay? And normally we try and get an approved set of construction drawings prior to starting most of our contracts. I say most because, you know, we try our best. Yeah, we try our best. And as you can see, the first item is receipt of approved construction documents by the building control department. Now you all know the full aspect of building control. Building control isn't just one department, okay? Because you got to go through building control. It starts off there, then it goes to town planning, and then you have to get all the setbacks and all those things approved. Then it goes to health, environmental health. So that whole process there is why you find sometimes drawings start off really fast and end slow. Okay, the next item is receipt of Ministry of Finance approval. So in order to get Ministry of Finance approval, we have to, of course, present all our documents, as Mr. Russell said, attend this board. And Ministry of Finance, once you present a final report relative to the project, recommending a contractor for a certain amount of monies, what's going to happen then is that tenders board would actually review your presentation, and then they would advise you of whether they would approve that. But that is in the end of the approval. I remember one time I submitted, well, I went to the tenders board, presented a report, and I think at least 2 or 3 weeks passed by. And I kept wondering, where is this approval? Because we need a written approval. You just can't get the verbal approval during your presentation. So, but that takes a little while too. So once you get receipt of the Ministry of Finance approval, then in certain cases where the project, as Mr. Russell said, if it goes over 250,000, you have to get cabinet approval. So that's another approval you have to get. The cabinet ministers then approve the project for projects beyond that budget, beyond that $250,000 budget. Okay, so right after that you have a contract signing. Once that's approved, you get all your approvals. You have a contract signing, receipt of permanent secretary approval. That's where you produce a contract document, and that document is signed off by the contractor, a witness, and then it goes up through to the PS. It passes, of course, the proper protocol, because it has to go first through the deputy, it has to go through the deputy directors, then it goes all the way up to the director, then it goes to PS. So you have to get all these approvals, and once it gets to PS, and PS signs off on it, and there's a witness to that signature, it comes back down as an approved contract. And once that contract is approved and comes back down, then at that point in time is when you can say, hey, we have a contract now. Okay? Contractor's letter requesting mobilization. we request that the contractor has to submit this letter. That says, hey, I'm requesting mobilization for this project. And once he signs that, sends that to us, then we can then review it. We don't just pay it. We review it first, and then we then produce a payment certificate. Because, you know, the contract may be for $200,000. The contractor may say, I want $250,000. So, you know, you got to make sure the amounts are correct. So that's important. Payment certificate release, the contractor is required to bring in certain documents. He has to make sure, as Mr. Russell said earlier, be VAT compliant. He has to have paid all his taxes, his TCC, must have a recent business license, you know, various other documents, his insurances must be in place for the contract. These things are very important. So as long as these are all submitted, then the contractor would then have a viable contract, okay, and he can be mobilized. Superintendent officer instruction. The superintendent officer, if you look at any of our contracts, is of course Ms. Melanie Roach. She's the director of public works. That is our only superintending officer, okay? And once we have approvals coming down to our superintending officers, then we can go on with the pre-construction part of the contract. We can complete that. Commence construction. Next, we're talking about actual commencing of construction. Okay? We need pre-qualification. We have a process now called pre-qualification where we ensure that all the contractors are pre-qualified. We look at all of their financial information. We require to have information on their curriculum vitae. We need to know their resume. We need to know a lot of information concerning them, because at the end of the day, we got to make sure that they are suitable and prepared to complete this project. So there's a pre-qualification process. Contractors list approval. This contractors list is sent up, and we have to get approval for that. Now, we can give recommendations all we want, but whoever they want to have that project, they're going to come back down and tell us, okay? And that's going to come back down from the top all the way down to us. And there's a process for that. Payment certificates, interim payments. Interim payments are done every once a month based on evaluation. Now, it could be shorter, it could be longer based on evaluations and when they're held. We have evaluations, whether they be locally on the Family Islands, and these evaluations are done by a team of officers who would be working on a project. So you will have the project officer, whether he be engineer or architect, and you would have the quantity surveyor, and you would have the contractor. And you would go through the project, whether it be as the Southern Recreation Park project, or be a building project, and you would go through that, and you would go through and see exactly what the contractor is requesting monies for. Because the contractor would request monies for works completed, but when you take a walk and inspect, you may find that it isn't quite as he said. So you may have to go, and he may request, like I said, 100,000. You may find, hey, he only deserves about 50,000. So in essence, he sort of blew up his expectations and a bit too high. All right. So interim payments, you have assigned payments. Assigned payments are for equipment. When you have to order long lead items, such as generators, such as windows, hurricane windows. A lot of us are aware of these in our projects. You will have to do an assigned payment directly to the company that is going to be providing the windows or the generator. Now, this payment has to also be relied upon certain aspects. For instance, the company you're ordering from must also be TCC compliant. They
have a up-to-date business license, they should have paid all their taxes, they also have to be compliant, so you can make that assigned payment, okay? Penultimate payment is when you reach practical completion, and for practical completion is when the clients can occupy a building. Practical completion comes almost at the end of the project, but not quite there. You're like about 90–95% completed with the project. Final payment is, of course, the final account payment. And this is what happens at the end of the project, when the project is done, and all the works are completed according to contract documents. Building control approvals are all in. You can have occupancy at this time, and also you have to make sure that not only the architectural DLS work is completed, but also the M&E work is completed, and structures, okay? And the final count is, of course, discussed and negotiated with the contractor and agreed to by all parties. That's the project officer, that's the contractor, and that's the quantity surveyor. Okay? And then, of course, at the end of the day, we have to get signed off by the authority. Site supervision and inspection, superintending officer. Normally, when we do site supervision and inspection, we have like a process where we have meetings. Meetings are held on a regular basis on various projects, and these are progress meetings. And as these meetings are held, these are also relative to payments. So, when we have these meetings, we can do evaluations and determine whether the contractor needs to have a payment or not. Project team, of course, we discussed this is consistent of project officer, whether it be engineer or architect, and also along with the quantity surveyor, the contractor, his subs, etc. Clerk of Works is a very important person in our ministry. And we have very few of them. I hope we get some more. These are officers who go and inspect projects as they are ongoing, and they ensure that all of the contract document stipulations are met. And they're very important because the project officers themselves are so busy that they can't be on the job on the project every day reviewing the progress. So they're very important. Building control department inspections. Of course, as the project goes on, we require that at each stage of construction, whether it be from the foundation stage all the way to the end of the project, and inspections are carried out on a regular basis. These are very important for statutory approvals, and at the end of the day, so that you can get occupancy in a timely fashion. Site meetings are held, as I said before, I think I mentioned it, as regular as possible, and as often as possible, so that, project closeout, punch list. Okay, the punch list is a write-up of all the works that isn't completed when you reach practical completion.